Now, we are by no means claiming to be experts on Morocco. We've only been here for like 4 weeks and we've seen a tiny portion of the country. However, before arriving, we'd read a lot of negative stuff and watched a lot of negative stuff about this place. And from seeing some of the comments on last week's video, we realised that this might also be quite a widespread perception of Morocco.
So we wanted to make a quick video to try and dispel some of the concerns that we had before travelling here, and we now know lots of other people have about travelling here. That's not to say that we're doubting that people have had genuinely bad experiences here and that there aren't any negative aspects to travelling here, but those things are true of literally anywhere that you go.
So we wanted to share our experience so far by discussing 10 things that have shocked us about travelling in Morocco.
We knew it was going to be absolutely fine travelling here with AD, but something that we weren't really prepared for is just how friendly and open Moroccans are towards children, particularly young children. So sometimes we can barely even walk down the street with AD without people wanting to come over and give her kisses and pat her on the head. She gets so many gifts, like chocolates, toys. It's genuinely a little bit overwhelming at some times. And I think that's particularly coming from a culture where I don't know, that just isn't a thing in England. We had a bit of a taste for it in Spain, where people would be really friendly towards her and affectionate, but it was typically from like older people of like kind of grandparent generation, whereas here it's just everyone. So like school kids, older people, but also like single young men. They'll want to just come over and give her a kiss and say hello to her and just are interested in talking to her, not to us. So yeah, she feels like a little bit of a celebrity sometimes walking down the street. But that's been really, really nice, like a really, really lovely part of the culture to experience with a child here.
We were slightly concerned before we came that the language barrier might be a little bit of an issue, because whilst we've learnt a few words since we've been here, neither of us spoke any Arabic before we came. And we only have sort of high school level French, and that was 20 years ago. So yeah, we were a little bit worried that we wouldn't be able to communicate with people. However, something that has really surprised us is that many Moroccans are bilingual, trilingual, multilingual. They speak English, French, Arabic, German, Swiss, Dutch, you name it, you will find someone that speaks it here. So we have had absolutely no problems whatsoever. We've got by with just our high school French, a bit of Spanish, and the odd bit of sign language when we've needed to as well. But something that we have found that has really enhanced our travels is that when you try and speak Arabic, when you make the effort, people really appreciate it. So we, like I said before, we've learned a few words for thank you, hello, and for saying that the food that we're trying is delicious and stuff like that, and it is always really appreciated.
One of the things that I had on my mind about coming here specifically as a woman was what I was going to wear. I didn't know what was going to be appropriate and whether I would have to buy some new clothes, in all honesty. Turns out I've just been able to wear my normal clothes. So you will find women wearing a whole range of things here, everything from headscarves and full face coverings to just like jeans and t-shirts. So while around the campsite and in the van, which you know is essentially my home, and where there's other Western tourists around, I might wear shorts and a vest top, something like that. And then out in the Medinas, or if we go out to restaurants to eat, I'll wear trousers typically, or like a cardigan or a longer top to make sure my shoulders are covered. That's pretty much it. I've just been able to, like I say, wear what I normally would, really. Obviously, I am travelling here in Morocco as a married woman, so I can't offer any perspective on what it's like travelling here as a single woman. But yeah, that's what my experience has been, that I've just been able to wear my normal clothes. If you watched last week's video, you'll know that I was wearing a headscarf in Casablanca Mosque. You didn't need to, a lot of other tourists in there weren't. Personally, because it was a religious site, it just felt a bit more respectful and appropriate for me to be doing so. But yeah, that was just absolute choice that I chose to do that.
Now, if you are a surfer, then this one will probably come as no surprise to you whatsoever, and I'll explain why a little bit later on. But me and Sarah, we don't surf. We've had one surf lesson in our lives and it didn't go very well. So it came as a complete surprise to us that the entire coast of Morocco, the Atlantic coast, is an absolute surfer's paradise. It is apparently one of the top destinations in the world to learn to surf. And a lot of the towns down this way are just packed with tons and tons of surfers. There are surf camps, there are surf schools, but you also get professionals that come here just to ride these waves. Now, a couple of the towns that we've been to are particularly famous. There's one called Tagazu and there's also one called Imsuwan. And if you are a surfer, you will have heard of Imsuwan. Why? Because it has reputedly got the longest wave in Africa. It's certainly the longest wave in Morocco, and it is about 1 kilometre long apparently. You can ride it for up to 3 minutes, we've been told. But not only that, the waves here are apparently super mellow. I think that is surfer speak for pretty calm. Now that means that it's ideal for beginners learning to surf because they're small waves but they're very consistent, meaning that there are lots and lots that you can catch. And also the surf is apparently good in most of these places all year round, which is not actually that common, I believe, in surfing hubs. Another great thing about the surf in Morocco is that it is relatively cheap to do it here. Certainly compared to European prices, you're going to be paying a lot less to hire your equipment and for your lessons as well. On top of that, the weather is fantastic here. Pretty much year round they get 300 days of sunshine, which means that you can come here in the winter and surf. Something that, whilst it's possible in a lot of places in Europe, I certainly wouldn't want to do it because the water would be absolutely freezing.
Something else that we were led to believe about Morocco is that alcohol is really expensive here. Now, if you're a regular viewer, you will know that Jay and I like a beer or two, but we were thinking coming to Morocco we were going to have a dry few months, we were ready to embrace it, it was going to be fine. However, it turns out that we didn't even need to bother ourselves with that because you can buy alcohol here and it's really not that expensive. In fact, it's cheaper than the UK. It's more a case of that you can't buy it everywhere. So it is generally the biggest supermarkets that will stock it, so places like Carrefour, like more international supermarkets where we found it, but they tend to have a huge selection of wines and beers. And then the other place that you can buy is in restaurants. Obviously not all restaurants, but you tend to find them in most places. Sometimes they're a little bit more expensive overall because they need a particular license, so the food tends to be a bit more expensive as well. But just to give you an idea of costs of things, in the supermarket we've been buying wine for around £3, and in restaurants you can get it for around £6. And beers, supermarket prices tend to be around 70–80 pence for a bottle, and then in restaurants we've found them as cheap as £1.50. So yeah, like I say, anyone that knows the price of alcohol in England will know that that is definitely not expensive.
Okay, I'll level with you. Maybe it wasn't a complete surprise that the food in Morocco is amazing, but I wasn't expecting it to be so good. And another thing that I wasn't expecting is the kind of flavours that we've been having in a lot of the dishes that we've tried. The impression that I had of Moroccan food before we came here was that it was going to be quite heavy, stodgy, carb-based and sauce-based food. However, the reality is that it is really varied. There's a lot of light dishes, flavourful, fragrant, lightly spiced food. And to be quite honest, it's been a really nice surprise that it's completely different from what I actually expected. I thought that couscous was going to be the main staple, but in reality that's mainly eaten on a Friday. Tagines are very popular here, however you can get a lot more than just tagines. Something that has really taken me by surprise is the quality of the seafood. It is absolutely incredible, and particularly along this Atlantic coast that we've been travelling down for the past 4 weeks. Another thing that we've heard a lot of before we came to Morocco was that we would probably get sick. Again, we've been here for a month and we've not had any problems whatsoever with that, and I really don't see that being a big issue at all.
Another impression that we had of Morocco before coming here is that we were going to feel quite hassled. So we tried to mentally prepare ourselves for that, but in all honesty we're thinking it was going to be a bit of a nightmare, and that's coming from the point of view of being parents of a toddler, and that we already feel quite hassled some days before we even left the van, before we've even got out exploring. But it just hasn't been the case. We've been able to go into shops and browse and leave without buying anything, and just haven't felt pressured into buying stuff. I will caveat that by saying we haven't been to Fez or Marrakesh yet, so our experiences might be different there, but we'd read about people chasing you down the street and like literally not letting you leave without buying stuff, and yeah, we've just not had that experience. So I'm not saying that isn't the experience in some places, but it certainly isn't countrywide.
something that we were genuinely a little bit fearful of before we came here was the state that the roads were going to be in. We'd heard a lot to say that they weren't in great condition, many of them were in disrepair, there were big potholes everywhere, and that we'd find it really difficult to drive here. But I'm very thankful to say that that has not been our experience whatsoever. The roads, in fact, are absolutely fantastic. They're great. Now, I don't know if a lot of that information was recorded a while back and that the roads have improved in the intervening years, but I can just tell you our experience is that many of the roads have been newly laid, the tarmac is fresh, we haven't come across many potholes, certainly no more than in England or in the UK. And not only that, but a lot of the roads are really fun to drive. This coastal route that we have been taking down the west side of Morocco has just been absolutely fantastic. They wind and they twist and they turn, and on the right hand side is the beach and the sea. It has really been amazing, and we had nothing to fear whatsoever about the roads. And I should say that at first we stuck to the toll roads, which are like the paid motorways, but the further down the coast that we got, the less of them that there are. So we've been taking the smaller B roads, and while a few of them have been quite tight, pretty narrow, so that when there are big trucks and stuff passing on the other side of the road, it does get a little bit hairy. That's nothing to do with the condition of the roads. They're in fantastic condition, and actually these roads are a lot more fun to drive and a lot more interesting. We've been through some really fantastic little towns and seen things that we just wouldn't have seen on the motorways. One thing that I should probably add to that though is that the norms of driving are slightly different here. We've seen a lot of things that we just would not see in Europe, but that just makes it more fun. Now obviously we have been travelling around Morocco in our little home on wheels Cassie, but we really weren't sure how hospitable it was going to be for us in a van, because we'd heard a lot of reviews of the facilities and the campsites and stuff, and they weren't great. And we'd also heard that you cannot wild camp here in Morocco, that you get moved on by the police. I can confidently say that both of those things are incorrect. The campsites here are generally of a really high standard. Okay, they might not be up to some of the really expensive European style ones, camping club and all of that, but that's not really what we've come to Morocco for personally. And with regards to wild camping, it is possible. There are lots of spots up and down the coast that we've seen so far where you can camp with absolutely no problem, and there are also a lot of semi-wild camps where they have a guard who will be there 24 hours a day throughout the day and the night, making sure that your vehicle is safe, and that has made us feel really secure. Another reason why it is so fantastic for van life in Morocco is that the weather is just brilliant. They get, as I said before, 300 days of sunshine, so you can just be outside your van the whole time. You don't have to worry about rain or any kind of bad weather really, and that's kind of what we built our van for, to be outside. Now you might be thinking, well, I don't have a van, so why is this relevant to me? However, we have seen people renting camper vans in Morocco, so that is a possibility for you if you're adventurous and you think that you might want to give it a go. We're going to link to one of those rental companies down below. Go and check it out. Okay, so here's the thing. We knew that Morocco was going to be a safe place to travel in. We'd done the research and we knew that it was going to be a safe place to bring Adi as well. However, the reaction of some people when we told them that we were coming to Morocco made us realise that the perception is perhaps not the same as the reality that we have experienced. We've literally never felt unsafe once in Morocco, and that is quite an incredible thing to say considering we've been here for a month. And there are places in Europe that we've visited, for example my hometown London, where I regularly feel unsafe when I'm walking around. Now generally we have been out and about as a family, so maybe that makes a slight difference, but Sarah has also been out by herself. She goes out running and she's been out in the mornings completely by herself even before the sun has come out. So in our experience, Morocco is completely safe to travel in. Now I know that we said that there were going to be 10 things, but I've actually got a little bonus one for you. So let's call this number 11. Everybody here thinks that I am Moroccan. They literally cannot believe that I am not Arabic. People start speaking to me in Arabic, they come up to me expecting me to understand them, and literally cannot get over the fact that I'm English. And I do get it. I do think that I look very similar to a lot of the people here, which is actually quite an unusual experience for me. Now I've got a question for any Moroccans out there, because I've been told that I specifically look as though I'm from Marrakesh Is this true? Or which region or part of Morocco would you say that I look like I'm from? Let us know down in the comments below. I'm really looking forward to these answers. Well, that is it for this week, friends. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, then please give it a big thumbs up down below. And if you are new around here, then we'd love you to subscribe. So hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that little bell button whilst you're there so you get notified every time we post a new video. Next week, we're going to get back to the travel videos. We'll catch you then.